Okay, today with us in our Career Pathways interview, we have Nyles Walker, Career Asset Director. I probably said it wrong already, didn't I? Go ahead, introduce yourself.
I'm Nyles Walker, Senior Asset Director at the Milwaukee Housing Authority.
Yes, that's it. So he's going to talk to us tonight about his journey and his career, his path, some things he's learned, and tell us all about what a Senior Asset Director does. Okay, so you're a Senior Asset Director for the Milwaukee Housing Authority.
Yes.
I said that right this time?
Yes, you did.
Okay.
A plus.
So what is it, what does that mean? What do you do?
In a nutshell, I am a property manager, accountant, compliance person, therapist, counselor. You know, it's a little jack of all trades. But the biggest thing I do is just making sure our properties are giving our residents great housing, that they're not falling apart, people are paying rent, and we're just keeping sure that the building is in healthy condition.
Okay. Is there just one of you, or is there several of you in Milwaukee?
Well, one person is retiring, so we just hired somebody else, so it's two of us.
Okay.
That's over the entire Milwaukee Housing Authority and also over Friends of Housing, which we just took that over as of October 1st. So
Okay.
we've been growing and
Okay.
never a dull moment.
You said Friends of Housing?
Yes,
What is that?
Friends of Housing was a company established about 25 years ago that the Housing Authority created to manage more so market rate properties.
Mm-hmm.
Those are properties where you have to make a certain income to move in there.
Mm-hmm.
The bulk of the Housing Authority is more low income housing.
Mm-hmm.
So the market rate is a little different. So we hired them to provide that as well for the city of Milwaukee.
Okay. Okay. And how long have you been with the Milwaukee Housing Authority?
I've been here for 2.5 years.
Oh, okay.
Yes, so I'm still kind of new compared to some
Okay.
folks that's been there 20, 30 years.
And you've been in this position for that long too?
I've been in the real estate field for over 16 years.
Oh, okay.
So this is just lots of years of climbing the ladder and
Mm-hmm.
paying my dues to get where I'm at now.
Okay. Well, let me back up a little bit, and then could you talk about that, like where,
course.
how it started? You know, graduate high school, then what? Like what happened then, and how'd you get here?
Everything went bad. No, life happened. In all seriousness, it was a point in my life. I was working at U.S. Bank, and then I lost that job, and I was a new father, and only a year and a half of college, and I was living with my father, and he didn't want me there. So it was a point where I looked around and was like, how in the world did I get here? Like, you know, every person kind of feels like they're special or unique in some way.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt that this wasn't my story. And I got my resume together, and I went to a temp service and see what they had. And it's funny because when you're young, they ask what skills do you have?
Mm-hmm.
You don't know. You haven't worked long enough to develop any skills.
Mm-hmm.
I knew I was smart. I could type pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
So she offered me this position at a law firm, I guess just as a foreclosure clerk,
Mm-hmm.
basically. So at the time I'm thinking, I had no job and now I'm working at a law firm? Oh, what? This is it. So I did that and got hired permanently, and that's how my journey began.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't where I thought it was going to be at all.
So just to kind of clarify, you didn't finish college then?
No, I did not
Okay.
finish college. Year and a half, I went to UWM, and I had too much fun.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't. If I could go back and give myself some advice, it'd be more to pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
I got too easily distracted,
Mm-hmm.
and a sense of entitlement,
Mm-hmm.
and I paid the cost for it. So
Mm-hmm.
now I know. So just to pay attention, and
Mm-hmm.
so.
So you started in that job at the law firm. So
Yeah.
then how did that lead to real estate and
Yeah,
all that? Like,
yeah.
Because
So,
you said you had a cush job. You started out at the law firm and it was great.
I mean, you go from making nothing, minimum wage, and then the law firm paid me like 11, 12 bucks an hour. And I was
Mhm.
like, 12 bucks an hour? What? But then when you factor in cost of living and child support,
Mm-hmm.
that gets zapped in half very quickly.
Right.
And then I was there for about 4 years, and I would see friends I went to high school with graduate from college, from Minnesota, Hawaii, Texas, and I'm looking back like, I'm a clerk, and I'm here. What am I doing? And there was an advertising to work for the Housing Authority as a legal assistant, paying, I don't know, $32,000. And I'm like, if I can make $32,000 a year, that's it. I made it. And I applied for the job. I got that job, and it just kept climbing ever since then. Ever since then, nonstop. Just never stopped having ambition and wanted to do more. Because once you start making a certain amount of money, your life changes. And it wasn't enough to take care of my family. And I had 2 sons. So that's how crazy I was. I wanted 1 kid, so I had 2 kids. But this is life. And everything was, my sons are beautiful kids, and this is where I am.
Okay, so you got into real estate. What kept you like in this field then? Like, why did you want to stay there? What interests you about it?
I was pretty good at it. I was, from my mother, she gave me the gift to be able to connect with people. So, and really a lot of it is really connecting with people and listening to people. People want to be heard, and they want to have a voice. And I was able to give people that voice and to help them out from not losing their house. So it's funny, real quick. So I went from doing foreclosures to doing evictions for the Housing Authority. So I was just a bad guy for like 7 years. So if you see me in court, it was not a good thing. But it helped me to learn the background of what happens when people are struggling, have hardships, things happen to them, and some things were legit. Some people really have hardships. So it helped me build compassion to move forward with that, because then I can understand, people have a struggle, I can relate to it now. So,
what role did you play in that eviction? Like, what did you have to do?
Yeah, so I was the person where the property manager would send me, say, 5 14-day notices, someone who hasn't paid rent. So my job is to go to the clerk's office and file a summons and complaint, schedule the court date, and go with the attorney to court, work out a payment plan, or get the sheriff's note for evictions, what's called a writ, and then proceed with that. So it's either working with somebody to help them stay, or if they didn't show up, give it to the sheriff to move them out.
That's gotta be tough.
It was tough. It was really frustrating, because there's some stories where people really had hardships, and your heart bleeds for them, and they come to court and you want to work with them. And there's always going to be people that play the system. Their rent could be $30 a month, but they're coming to court with like new outfits on and new shoes that cost more than what I have on. But that was important also to learn about the different types of people you're going to experience, not just in the city of Milwaukee, but really in life. So it helped me be more well-rounded, but it was not easy, but it was definitely a learning experience.
And you did that for how many years?
I did that for almost 5 years. Most jobs I've had, they've all been 4 or 5 years, and I call it like my graduating. So it's like now it's time for the next level. So my resume pretty much reads like that. Every 4 years, it's like, all right, now it's time to graduate and try another challenge.
And level up.
So level up, absolutely.
Okay, I'm gonna get back to that. I wanna know about the next few years.
Okay, absolutely.
But when you took this journey, right, you kind of on a whim got the job, temp agency, did all that. So like, what has kept you here then?
I really enjoy it. I mean, I really enjoy when you talk to people and you give them the keys to their unit, and they have, some people's houses are beautiful, so people go from having nothing to having something and then taking care of it. So just giving, the families in Milwaukee a place for their children to call home, that gives me satisfaction. Like, I'm making a difference. I'm not just doing the foreclosures or doing the evictions. Now I'm giving you keys. And now my job is even, again, more than that, to make sure that where you're living is beautiful, it's satisfactory. It's not bed bug infested. It's not poor. You know, it's something that's quality that people all deserve.
Right. But what does a day in a life look like? What do you do?
A day in the life, what I learned is your calendar, it can have 4 different things on it. You may not get to any of those things.
Yep.
You know, it happens when you wake up to voicemails or emails and putting out fires, and there's always so many moving parts and people involved, and obviously the COVID has changed the game completely, to where we're all learning as we're going. But you know, it could be from talking to residents, talking to managers, talking to our attorneys, scheduling work events. It can be anything.
Okay. What's the okay? Let me see. Okay. What does tomorrow look like for you?
Tomorrow's actually a busy Friday, and one thing I wish I would learn is to try to have a more relaxed Friday. Everyone deserves that.
Everybody wants that.
Yeah. Tomorrow is a day. I have 2 meetings, which my job is a lot of meetings. I'm not very fond of that, but it's also important. So 2 meetings tomorrow, one at 10 o'clock, one at 1:30. And it's again, we're taking over about 300 units. So we're just making sure that we're in 2 phases. Make sure that phase 1 is going smoothly, that the new employees got everything from HR together, they got their resume, their application signed, did their drug testing, their training, make sure that they, curb any kind of fears they may have with the transition. So it's just a lot of game planning right now for me tomorrow.
Okay. So what would you say is the best part of your job? We'll start there.
The best part is I love the property managers.
Okay.
You know, I'm very big on synergy. So the team I build, I want to make sure we all can connect, and we all work together as a unit. So just being with them and seeing the progress we made. Like for example, Park Lawn, when I started, had 120 vacancies. In 2 years, now we're down to 7. So just to be able to celebrate how hard everyone has worked, from the maintenance tech to the admins, the property managers, to our entire team, to get from 150 to 7 is an accomplishment. So it's good to step back and say we made progress, significant progress. So that's what I enjoy.
You said your team. Do you supervise people or?
Yes, I'm over all of the managers and all over all the admins and in a lot of ways the mechanics as well.
How many people is that?
I lost track.
Roughly
18 people.
Okay.
So a combination of property managers, admins, some custodians, and mechs.
Someone was just in here earlier talking about how their success has been their progress in moving up in their field and being able to kind of be more in a management role. But it's also one of the harder things because they like working with their hands, because they're in the trades. So how do you feel about that? Like, it's great to move up, right, and find success in that, but how do you feel about kind of moving further away from some of the work and managing people?
Yeah, there definitely is a give and take. But I love elevating people, right? So if I can hire someone that may not have been given a chance by a different company, now I can recognize the person across from me because I've been there before. You just want somebody to give you a chance. They may not have the most experience, but they have the skills that align to what you're trying to do. So to see them get hired and then see them maximize their potential to where I want to see everyone promoted, bonuses, and do great for their careers and do what's best for them.
Right.
So that gives me satisfaction. That's what I love to see.
Okay. So if you had to talk about something that maybe you don't like about your job, or maybe one thing you wish you could change about your job, or maybe a big stressor for you, what might that be?
Can we edit this part out? No. You learn about bureaucracy. I've heard that word mentioned a lot since I've started, and it's gave me a bigger education than I imagined. So just a lot of the politics that happen behind the scenes and trying to navigate that in the different departments and different people, that's one of the hardest things about my job.
Okay. see that.
Yes, very much so.
How do you get through that then? Like, what do you do to kind of get yourself through the day, knowing that maybe you're not always on board with all aspects?
Yeah, patience.
Mm-hmm.
And when I first started, it was, even now, it's a lot better, but like the old saying is, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so for me, if I look at climbing the entire tree, it's too intimidating.
Mm-hmm.
So I just get the branches I can reach.
Mm-hmm.
So just one thing at a time, and slowly making my way up to clearing everything out.
Mm-hmm.
So just taking that step, you won't get overwhelmed by what's in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
So if you just make short-term goals every 30 days, 60 days, etc., and you see how you're doing meeting those goals,
Mm-hmm.
then it's easier than going every 30 days to the next 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
That's too far of a jump. Sometimes people just have a hard time. It's too intimidating.
Mm-hmm.
But when you see yourself making success, it gives you confidence.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I go about my days.
Okay. And you mentioned earlier about how you were a younger parent and how to kind of
Yes.
get through that, navigate through that. Can you identify any other barriers in your career that you've had that that's challenging, hurdles you had to jump over?
Oh,
Just one?
Yeah, just one. Hurdles. Really, your own self-esteem, your own confidence.
Mm-hmm.
Really, you battle against yourself. I used to catch the bus to work, and you're on the bus, and public transportation, although it's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you're sitting next to somebody that may not smell the best.
Mm-hmm.
It's cold outside. It's rainy outside, and it really humbles you to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
You can either, and it encouraged me to say, okay, this is not going to be my life.
Mm-hmm.
So, when I finally got a car, it was like, again, a milestone event for my life.
Mm-hmm.
But then I never forgot catching the bus, going to work, like giving my kid a kiss to go to school. He catches the bus, and I'm in the bus,
Mm-hmm.
and I just wanted more.
Mm-hmm.
So it helps me to appreciate the things I do have.
Mm-hmm.
So it keeps me humble.
Okay. Anything along your journey that surprised you?
Yes, actually. One of the biggest things that helped me advance my career. This is going to sound really strange, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I would be in meetings when I was, maybe a mid-level employee or so, with like different CEOs and vice presidents and people who had these big titles. And I'm sitting there, and they're like a box of rocks sometimes. And I used to be like, how did this person get this job?
Mm-hmm.
Like, who did they know? What did they do? So for me, it was like, wait a minute, if this person can do it, I know I can do it, because I know what my skills are.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just getting the opportunity to do so. So really being around people and seeing them making a lot of money, and a lot of them, some are very sharp, but a few along the way were like, wait a minute,
Mm-hmm.
wait, why am I stuck here when I can be there?
Mm-hmm.
So I was never scared to not apply for a job that I was qualified for.
Mm-hmm.
I made the mistake once of applying for a job I wasn't qualified for, got it, and I embarrassed myself. So don't do that either. Then you sit there looking ridiculous. But it just taught me to apply for jobs that was the next level,
Mm-hmm.
not have a fear of success.
Okay. Is there anything that you would do different in your career? Down to career.
Oh my God. In my career, I would put a bigger emphasis on the character of a company. So many times I chased a title or a money,
Mm-hmm.
but really, where you're going to spend more time with than you will your wife, your kids, your husband, your family, whoever it may be. Is the company a place that you want to call home for 40 hours a week? Not just a big name company, but a place that's going to treat you how you want to be treated,
Right.
and vice versa. So I would have looked for companies that had high integrity and treat their employees well,
Mm-hmm.
not just big title companies.
Mm-hmm.
So I would do that. I would tell myself to look for that.
Okay.
Don't just look for the big names.
Mm-hmm.
Look for what's right.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned before that, you know, you didn't go to college, and I'm highlighting that because
Sure.
we have a lot of young people that we work with that, you know, some don't like school, some are doing the bare minimum to finish school, barely finishing school. But I think it's good for us to expose them to different careers and people who have been successful without that, because college isn't for everybody, right?
Correct. Correct.
And it can be great for people who want to get into careers where they need it and, you know, to educate yourself further.
Absolutely.
But it's not always a necessity. Would that be
Yes.
something maybe not necessarily required in your role, but that you would want to go back and do? Or maybe not now, but like if you go back and
Sure.
do, would you want? Do you feel like it's necessary?
It depends on where you're going in your career.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I'm trying to get a deck built, I want the contractor to be magnificent. I don't care about his college resume. It doesn't
Mhm.
matter to me. Can you build a deck?
Mm-hmm.
Or can you do a skill that I don't have?
Mm-hmm.
If it's, you know, a doctor or an accountant, I'd kind of want to know what kind of qualifications they have.
Mm-hmm.
So it depends on the field you're going into. For myself, if I could do college over again, I would 100% pay more attention to what I was doing and graduate.
Mm-hmm.
It does feel like that's one thing in my life I didn't accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
You know, one of my parents to see me graduate.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my brother didn't graduate, so my mother's, her sons didn't graduate. We're successful, which is a beautiful thing,
Yeah.
but it's still one thing that's missing that I wish I could have on my wall to show my kids, look, I graduated from college,
Mm-hmm.
you know, just to continue education. And it's also, now when you, every upper echelon job you apply for,
Mm-hmm.
the question is on there. Do you have your bachelor's? Do you have your master's?
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have it, you can't even apply.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so unless you know someone or have 20 years of experience.
Right.
But for somebody 25 years old, it's impossible.
Right.
So, and as a minority, we especially have to have that just to get into the door,
Mm-hmm.
for them to even look at your resume,
Mm-hmm.
to see who you are. And without that, they ignore you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, you know, I understand folks that don't get it. I support them 100%. People that do, I admire them as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it depends what field you're going into too. Right?
100%. Absolutely.
We just talked to somebody in the trades before that, and you know,
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
college wasn't for them, and that's great, right? You can
Yeah.
do different things, and
I could, again, when you growing up, I'm glad the stigma around trades is starting to shift.
mm-hmm.
Because when I was a kid, it was like, you know, plumber, electrician. I mean, they were good jobs, but it's kind of dirty.
Mm-hmm.
You know, not realizing, you know, there's what, maybe less than 5 master African American plumbers in the state of Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
So after all these years, I become a master plumber, and I can set my rate.
Mm-hmm.
You can make $250,000 or more on your time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a job that you will always be in demand. No matter what happens, people will need electricians and plumbers and carpenters forever.
Yeah.
So, but at the time, and no one really told me that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they said, "Well, be this." They didn't say why.
Right.
You know, it was. Now the stigma is changing, and you know, people are coming out of high school making money more than I'm making.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because they're a commodity and they're talented. So.
If someone wants to do what you do, what do
Yeah.
they need? What kind of characteristics do they need?
People skills,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, working smart and working hard.
Mm-hmm.
The people that I struggle working with the most is laziness and procrastinators.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I can use all kind of different personality quirks. I work with them all,
Mm-hmm.
but you have to have a drive.
Mm-hmm.
You know, something that's in yourself. You want to look in yourself, and when no one's watching you, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Are you putting in work? Or are you scrolling?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, if you spend most of the time scrolling on social media, and the other person who's doing the small things, putting the office together, making phone calls, checking the voicemail, that's the person who's going to get ahead.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just doing the things when no one's watching you.
Mm-hmm.
Your own drive, your own initiative.
Yeah.
You can't buy that.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Do you feel like you always possess those qualities? Or did you have to, or maybe had a mentor along the way to kind of guide you, or you just kind of built it up within yourself?
A combination of both. I mean, there were some people that I seen are very successful
Mm-hmm.
that showed me that it could be done, but they went a different route. They didn't have 2 kids at 23 without a college education,
Mm-hmm.
so they didn't go my route. So
Mhm.
it's not the same journey. But at the same time, it motivates me. Oh, real quick story.
Yeah.
So when I worked at U.S. Bank,
Mhm.
from First Star, if you're my age, you know what First Star Bank was.
Mhm.
And being in high school, that was a bank teller. I'm thinking, it's all baller. I'm thinking if I'm around money, that means through osmosis, I would be also rich. And I would come in and see a guy come to the counter, look kind of poor. I'm like, man, this guy's rough, right?
Mhm.
Deposit his account money. This guy has $400,000 in his account. And that kept happening to me. I'm like, these regular people
Mhm.
are worth $500,000 or more.
Mhm.
Like, what am I doing?
Mhm.
So it changed how I thought wealth looked like.
Yeah.
It's not, you
Flashy,
growing up, you think it's,
yes.
the big cars, the big house, the jewelry.
Yeah.
And these people, Old Navy shoppers, whatever you want to
Mhm.
call it. And I like Old Navy.
Right.
But it was like basic,
Yep.
the perception, so I grew. Like, okay, being rich doesn't look how I think it looks.
Mhm.
This is how people who actually have money, and they're basic people, but their savings account are, $1 million.
Yeah.
And it's this whole hum. It's
Yeah.
not even, it's a Tuesday.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, that's
it was
a great
eye-opening.
point too. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I said I was going to get back to this. Where do you see yourself? You're a couple years in this position. Not
Yeah.
saying you're going to leave, but what kind of aspirations do you have for yourself, profession in the next few years?
100%. It's in my spirit to start my own company.
Okay.
I've been around the block enough, and I know the kind of people I want to hire and what I want to build and what this city deserves.
Mhm.
So my way of giving back into helping people, and not just people of color, people period, in
Mhm.
the city of Milwaukee. Because Milwaukee for too long, for black and brown people, has been the crabs in a barrel.
Mhm.
Like, no one helps each other advance here.
Mhm.
So I like to be a part of the change, to help uplift each other, and we're all on the same team working together.
Mhm.
So my company will have those values and hire people who have those values, and that will reflect in the work that we do.
Do you feel like that will also revolve around home ownership?
Possibly. My wife is a machine, and she's great in sales. She's great with people. She's fantastic. So she has her sales aspect, and I have my way of connecting with people.
Mhm.
So we can combine those things together,
Mhm.
and they're both in the real estate field as well,
Mhm.
to make something significant happen. Not
Mhm.
chase a dollar sign, but
Yep.
actually make where we can hire our children and our friends or whoever,
Mhm.
build wealth,
Yeah.
and build a company that they can pass on, build a legacy.
Yeah.
Not just working, till you're 65,
Mhm.
get Social Security for 10 years and you die. Like
Mhm.
that, I don't want that for my life.
Right. I like that. And I think too, like getting into something like that, talk about our community. I read something recently about how Milwaukee has like the lowest rate for home ownership among African Americans.
Yes,
And it'd be nice to see that investment, right? And
absolutely.
because I think, when you own your own home in your own community, you
Yes,
have a sense of community. That's just what
Yes.
it is. And
yes. But even that, there's so many variables to it. Now the housing in Milwaukee is historically high.
Mhm.
So houses that used to be sold for 60 grand are going for 160 grand. So a lot of minorities may not have the resources to purchase a home,
Mhm.
or that's intimidating.
Yeah.
Just the thought of it,
Oh, yep.
and not realizing what you're paying for rent. Your mortgage would be half that sometimes.
Mhm.
But we're not taught about credit,
Yeah.
and taxes and the things that you need to know to prepare yourself for home ownership.
Mhm.
So a lot of it's connected, and again, there's the stigma as well. I don't want to own nothing because if something breaks, I got to pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather call somebody else to say the water heater went out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but anytime you own something, there's no quick money. So even if you buy houses, it may take you 5 to 10 years to see a profit.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a big picture game.
Right.
Today's society is so fast food; they want everything right now. Nothing happens now.
Mm-hmm.
So just to show folks that you can buy a house, you can buy multiple. But if you're looking to get rich, this may not be the way to get rich.
Right.
So.
Okay. Well, I appreciate your time today. Is there any last words for any young people in their career journeys and maybe want to take the same path you did?
Don't take that same path.
Get to the end, but different way.
Yeah. For me, so many times I held myself back.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I truly was. I don't know if I was scared of failure or success.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But I knew once I had my son that I couldn't live my life this way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's unfortunate that that had to happen to me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I didn't have that within myself because in high school I've had trauma. We all have trauma.
Mm-hmm.
So until you can deal with that trauma, like again, what is your purpose?
Mm-hmm.
So having a son was my purpose,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I wouldn't recommend people having children to find their purpose
Mm-hmm.
at all. But to believe you can do it,
Mm-hmm.
even when we don't know how. I remember laying on the floor at my father's house, my baby crying, my dad didn't want me there, and I'm like, how did I get here? How is this my life?
Mm-hmm.
But you have to, again, just start. The hardest part is starting, whether it's applying for that job, getting your resume together, catching the bus, whatever it takes for you to reach your goal, you have to start.
Mm-hmm.
And don't look at A through Z. Like I said earlier, just start from A to C. Just try to have a job and keep it for 6 months.
Yeah.
You know, from there, a year, and so forth and so on. When jobs come up, go for them.
Mm-hmm.
But just realistic goals. And it got to be a 10-year plan, which is nice, but start with a 3-year plan.
Mm-hmm.
Go there. And it's easier to see some results. Otherwise, you're going to maybe expect too much and then realize you wake up one day, 10 years have passed.
Mm-hmm.
Just like that.
Yeah.
So don't hesitate. Don't wait. There is no right time. There is never the right time. So if something's in your heart, something's your passion, go for it. Because somebody else is going to go for it. You don't want your blessing to pass you by because you were scared to make the leap.
Mm-hmm.
So take the risk. Don't be scared. You know, have a good team around you, and you'll make it. You'll be all right.
I like it. Good advice. All
Hope
right.
so.
Well, Mr. Nyles Walker from Milwaukee Housing Authority, thank you for giving us all this wonderful information. We appreciate it.
You're welcome. Anytime.